we can create sort of the attributes of that non-fungible thing on the fly. So if you're a horse breeding company and you want to breed two different NFTs to result with a third, you can do that. If you're a basketball, franchise, you want to create season tickets, and those season tickets can result in various types of rewards as your team or your favorite players do things, you can do that. If you're an artist and you want to define, I use a certain kind of paint or canvas, and that is defined within the context of the NFT, I can do that. So you've got all these different options, and then beyond that, we provide a mechanism to trade. So I can trade those things with my friends. I can breed those things if I want. If I've got the original, I can define that. Well, I want to create derivatives of the original. So I've got issue one or the version one, and I create 100 more versions of that, and each one's worth less than the original. So you've got all these different options in terms of how you monetize, and those things can be granted based on action.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Weekly podcast, the show where we interview the top movers and shakers in the crypto industry. Today, I'm joined with Reuven Cohen, the co-founder and CEO of Awardpool. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me to the show.
Absolutely. Really excited for the conversation. For those that aren't as close to the space, why don't you, give a little bit of background of what Awardpool is, what you guys are out to accomplish, and how you came to start the business.
Well, it's been a kind of evolution for sure. When we started the business in March of 2020, we had an idea to sort of create a platform that was initially focused on this idea of esports and kind of the participation you'd see on things like Twitch and having users be involved in the sort of excitement of kind of gaming and esports. And what we did, and this wasn't something we really set out as a sort of, initial sort of thesis or hypothesis, but we underpinned a lot of that with NFTs and tokens. We said, what if we could sort of use the point systems and define those as a kind of fungible token? And what if those rewards could be based on non-fungible things, non-fungible tokens? And so as we built up the platform, we quickly realized that what we had built was actually much more applicable, not just in esports, but into sort of the rewarding of brands and activities and how you facilitate the kind of digital generation, that generation that doesn't make a distinction between the virtual world and the physical. The one that says, I'm happy to interact with my friends in Fortnite just as comfortably as the playground down the street. And then we said, well, the basis of that is actually not just limited to gaming. It can be applied to any kind of brand that wants to engage that kind of generation. So we quickly realized that we had this interesting opportunity for a kind of gamified, tokenized experience.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And I think you're totally right, where this next generation is just as comfortable owning digital assets as they are physical, and just as comfortable hanging out in the virtual world. I think that's a clear market shift. Why don't we chat a little bit about how, NFTs can revolutionize, community building for not just games, but also for brands. Like, how big of an innovation is this for the advent of just building a community?
And that's the interesting part of what we're doing. So we're working with a number of brands in several different verticals right now in sports. So we're doing with some teams, some leagues, even a horse racing operation. And we're working with some, influencers in the music world, sort of, big name musical acts, as well as up and coming. And what they all share is this sort of desire to unlock a kind of social currency, a kind of social goodwill, right? And what we discovered is that this platform is a mechanism that allows for sort of the propagation, the pollination of multiple sort of social verticals. So when you reward your users that you already have, let's say you have, I don't know, 1 million followers on like TikTok or something, you may not have any followers on SoundCloud or Instagram or something else. So you've got this way to sort of cross-pollinate, right? And the unit of value is like, it could be like, I'm going to like something on Instagram. I get some points. Those points can then be redeemed for things, t-shirt, gift card, NFTs, or I'm in a game and I've got, 5 kills in 5 minutes in Fortnite, and I get I get a sort of unique NFT. Or I'm a sports organization and someone scores a goal and I get a unique NFT that relates to the game. And this relates back to brand. So now, if you're a racing car and you got a bunch of logos on the side of your racing car, that typically is a passive experience, right? I see Napa on the side of the car, or some oil company. Now I've got a mechanism to sort of take a passive experience and make it active, make it rewarding, make it engaging. And that's where we sort of come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the traditional advertising model, is switching now that we can start to reward people with different currencies, as opposed to just having to get paid by advertisers to see content on the screen. I think one of the great things that's also happening with NFTs is it's almost multiplying the effect of social media. And when we can cross-pollinate, as you said, across different social medias, and you can also incentivize that by offering these either fungible or non-fungible tokens, it adds value, and it adds a reason for people to participate. So maybe just chat about how you guys are looking at that incentivization of social media engagement, and how that helps to grow community as well.
So we've got three predominant approaches that we take. We have this concept of a virtual currency, and this would be, the sort of lightest weight, similar to what you see in a game. It's database driven. There's no regulatory hurdles to overcome. It's just the same as a point system you experience in a game, or air miles, Aeroplan, whatever. Sort of simple, easy access. The next part is a token. In the lingo of blockchain, it's an ERC20 style token. It's fungible. There's no difference between really any token A, B, C. They're all the same. And then that can be deployed across multiple blockchains. So we create a kind of agnostic approach, assuming we can support the EVM, the Ethereum sort of virtual machine. We can deploy just as easily on Ethereum as any derivative of Ethereum. Proof of work, proof of stake, really doesn't matter. That requires, given the current regulatory landscape, depending on the brands, potentially some approval from lawyers and whatnot. And then the last part is this idea of an NFT. And this is probably the most interesting part, because it's non-fungible. So the way we create the NFT, we use a couple of different specifications. We started with the 721, which was kind of popularized by things like CryptoKitties. And then we quickly realized that there's a new specification sort of popularized by companies like Engine, called the 1155, that sort of encapsulates both the best parts of a non-fungible and fungible world into sort of a single component. So we can create sort of the attributes of that non-fungible thing on the fly. So if you're a horse breeding company and you want to breed two different NFTs to result with a third, you can do that. If you're a basketball franchise, you want to create season tickets, and those season tickets can result in various types of rewards as your team or your favorite players do things, you can do that. If you're an artist and you want to define, I use a certain kind of paint or canvas, and that is defined within the context of the NFT, I can do that. So you've got all these different options. And then beyond that, we provide a mechanism to trade. So I can trade those things with my friends. I can breed those things. If I've got the original, I can define that, well, I want to create derivatives of the original. So I've got issue one or the version one, and then I create 100 more versions of that, and each one's worth less than the original. So you've got all these different options in terms of how you monetize, and those things can be granted based on action, like retweet, play, visit. Then those actions can be placed in the real world. I could go to a concert, or the meta world. I can go to a virtual concert. And it can be attached to virtual things. Not only am I going to a virtual concert, I get a virtual skin to wear in the concert.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pretty remarkable. And I guess we can touch on the metaverse in a bit, because I know that's, the younger viewers are probably going to be super interested in that. I just want to kind of carte blanche say this, just judging by the companies that you're working with, how big is this total addressable market? It's not just, segmented to gaming. Truly, there's no limit to what types of companies and businesses can start to adopt this, virtual currency type of model, and and incentivize engagement that way.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. As I said, it's gonna, as you can tell, we evolved in where we started and where we ended, relatively different places. And our pipeline is, tremendous. As I said, we've got opportunities with museums in Europe. We've got major major league sports ranging from basketball to football to racing to horse racing, all these various things. And we've got entertainment companies that represent everything from musical acts of some of the biggest bands you've heard of in the world from like 1975 to new and up and coming sort of artists you've never heard of. And we have all these crazy opportunities to do all these things, and it's all underpinned based on this concept of a kind of digital reward. Some people want to give away a Doge or a Bitcoin, others want to create their own, and so we've got this mechanism to just essentially provide a kind of programmatic reward.
Yeah. And also create value based on your community, right? I mean, going back to that advertising model, we've always thought we needed to pay something in order to get something in return. Now we can create value based on the communities that we have and distribute that value to the community. So I think that's a market change from what we've seen in the past. Why don't we jump into the metaverse a little bit? Because I think it's one of those things that if you don't understand it, it's easy to just push to the side and not really understand the gravity of how big this thing is going to be. Can you chat a little bit about the metaverse, how you see this expanding and how you see award pools, working in the metaverse?
Yeah, it's interesting because we sort of, bridge the divide between the physical and the virtual world. It's this idea that a lot of folks don't make the distinction between the sort of tangible things that they wear and touch and the virtual things that they can interact with. And in the meta world, it's much the same way. So what we can define is this kind of experience, this reward within the context of a kind of three-dimensional environment. So if you're at, one of our partners is a major sort of 3D concert company. They do basically the concerts you'd see in like a Fortnite and things like that with major recording artists. And what this provides is a mechanism that leads up. It's sort of an incentive before the thing happens. Because a lot of the things are sort of a moment in time. It's a concert. You're one and you're done. And what we can do is say what happens before, during, and after. And before you can gain excitement, virality of sorts, invite your friends, get points, do various things that relate, play a song by the artist, do all these things. During, you can redeem that stuff, get a better spot in the virtual concert, change your hair, your skin colors, your shirt colors, whatever it happens to be in the context of it, get different various skins. And then after, you can then do things and interact on an ongoing basis. So it's kind of a 360 kind of loop of sorts. So the opportunity, I think, in the meta sphere is not just speculative. It's not I'm buying some piece of land or whatever and in hopes that it goes up. It's trying to make it actually entertaining and fun and an actual experience, not just speculative.
Yeah. And I think another great feature of not just the metaverse, but as we talk about communities is, it could be a good thing and a bad thing, but we talk about tribalism, right? And people, wanting to show that they're part of a certain group, wanting to show that they've been to a certain experience. And I think this is where NFTs tie in very well because, it's not just you go to a concert, you get some of their merch, you wear it sometimes and it's gone. In the virtual world, you go to a concert, you get a skin, you can wear that for the rest of, you can have that on, you can display it in your wallet or whatever have you. So it creates this almost amplified sense of belonging within certain groups and helps really, form relationships cross borders.
Yeah, and trade with your friends, you can interact, there's a sense of belonging.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we go a little bit more in depth into award pool specifically? If somebody wants to, work with you or get started, how would that process look? Would they, is it a plug and play solution? Is it kind of a, built for you type of approach? How would people get involved?
We're an early stage startup. We just raised our, seed funding, I guess you'd say, just shy of $3 million.
Congrats.
And so right now we're taking a kind of staged approach, like any good early stage startup. So we're doing a more handheld sort of engagement with several organizations and companies that represent each vertical. We think that there's a big opportunity in. And these are deals that, that kind of will represent, what our platform can do, and they're handheld. We're helping set it up. We'll do all the sort of legwork to make sure that it's successful. and I'm also aware that those types of engagements don't scale, right? You're never going to build a business by, consulting your way up to $1 billion. So, but what this does do is again, it's proof. It's proof that we can do what we say we can do. It allows us to adapt based on real world sort of engagements. And that brings us to a time frame, probably in the November-ish, where we're going to do more of a SaaS model. And in that model, we go a little less concierge, handheld approach to one that says, let 1,000, maybe more, hopefully, bloom, right? And then you've got, these sort of big name examples that you can sort of refer to, like, well, we could do that, or we should do that. And then we've got templates and examples that you can basically couple clicks and get going. So if you want to think of an analogy, we see ourselves as a kind of Shopify of sorts for sort of the digital world, the digital engagement world, right? And the key difference here is rather than sort of fundamentally requiring a kind of, fiat-based engagement or credit card-based engagement, we're based on sort of the unlocking of a kind of goodwill and social currency. Although you can interact with a credit card, that's not the sort of central point of value.
Love that. The Shopify for the digital world. That's a great tagline. Who would be your ideal customer at a time like this?
Early, I would say, these are, brands and organizations that could sort of be, good, solid prototypes and examples of what we can do within these different verticals. So again, we're talking about major racing car team. We're talking to, major brands. So for the most part, they're significant and well-known organizations. And again, that's just, everyone needs someone to follow. So it makes it a little easier to sort of show, XYZ brand that you already know and trust that using our platform. So that's like right now. And then later, I think it's open to just about anyone who wants to engage users in new and interesting ways. So we're seeing a lot in the influencer space. We're seeing obviously a lot from the sort of crypto space. They've got these coins and things that they created for fans or whatever reason. But let's be honest, a lot of these don't have any real use. We show up and we're like, hey, well, this is a new way to use it. You get more holders, you get more activity. And if you're familiar with the crypto world, the basic value of an offering is based on the number of holders and the number of transactions you have on that. And inherently, we amplify both.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. If somebody wants to get involved or in contact with AwardPool, how would they do so?
Well, we've got a landing page. We're in the midst of a rebrand, so it'll probably change over the next few weeks. But awardpool.com. We've got a sales address, sales@awardpool.com, which basically goes to me and my partner. So it'll show up in my inbox. We're actively hiring. So, as I said, we've got a funding round, so we've got to spend that money. And I'm accessible on various, Telegrams and Discords and LinkedIn. I'm not the most typical guy to find. So if you're interested or just want to chat, I'm happy to engage.
Perfect. Well said. Well, absolute pleasure speaking with you, Reuven. Congrats on the new seed round, the new funding, and I look forward to seeing what AwardPool does in the future.
Appreciate it.
All right. All the best.